Hello, Space Junkies, and welcome to What a Piece of Junk, FPN's Star Wars podcast. This is episode number 115, and I am your host, Scott Baltman, joined as always by my podcast co host, Mr. Derek Marsh. Derek, what's up?
Not much, Scott. This is the second week in a row. We're recording on a Thursday, just within 24 hours of Mando being released, so a lot sooner than we normally are. But just a lot going on in the real world. Not just only is it an Easter holiday weekend, which we prep for, but we'll have some fun stuff to talk about because for whatever reason, Disney decided to have Star Wars Celebration this upcoming weekend. So lots of stuff we'll get to talk about in the second half today with predictions and things we'd like to see. But before that, we got to talk some Mandalorian.
That's right, and we can't do it without the guy who convinced me to get rid of my droid phone before it got infected by horrible Nepenthe juice and tried to kill me. It's the original Gooey Chewy, our own Mr. Miracle, our very own Dave Filcloni, Mr. Nathan Miracle. What's up, Nathan?
Hey, I'm doing great. I loved this week's episode. Okay, yeah, I should probably save that for the actual discussion. But I'm just so excited because battle droids! Yay!
Yeah. It was so cool. and a flood of guest stars. So we couldn't help ourselves. We had to have a guest star on this episode of the podcast. Joining us is Brogu himself, Darth Lee, Mr. Lee Fillingsness. Lee, how's it going?
Pretty good. I feel a little something's missing. I only watched one Star Wars show yesterday.
I know,
there should have been another one.
I was going through withdrawals on a Wednesday there. Luckily, Picard came along to help me out. Man, what a humdinger! But
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, right. That's a whole different podcast. But yeah, we're here to talk about Star Wars: The Mandalorian, episode. I don't know whatever number that was.
6.
Yes, episode 6. Hired Guns. I need to start doing the thing where we mention the chapter numbers because that's how they're labeled on Disney Plus. It's like,
but it's season 3, episode 6 to me. So
right, yeah, exactly. But yeah, so let's jump right into it, guys. And then like Derek said, we'll do a little Star Wars celebration, pontificating, wish list, hopes, dreams, fears, etc. after the break. So Nathan, what did you like best about this episode of The Mandalorian?
I love this whole entire episode. So if I started from the beginning, I could just keep talking through the entire episode. I loved the Quarren ship at the beginning. I love seeing the captain in the captain's chair, the fish tank there. I loved the fact that they brought back the same voice actor who did the droids in the Clone Wars to do the battle droids for this episode.
Bradley Baker doesn't do them?
That is one of the few voices he doesn't do in the Clone Wars. And basically, there's about 6 voice actors in all of the Clone Wars. One for all the clones, one for all the droids, and then you've got like Anakin, Padme, Obi-Wan.
Ahsoka.
Yeah. Who did Yoda and the announcer at the beginning and all that? He did
Tom Kane.
Yeah, Tom Kane. Thank you. Because he does like 15 or 16 different main, pretty reoccurring characters for them as well too. So.
I believe he does Yularen, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Yularen and Yoda, same person, confirmed.
I do. Yularen and Andor had that voice though.
Yeah.
We as ISS will root it out. Just keep the.
But if correct me if I'm wrong, guys, has it? Tom Kane's actually passed away, right? I know he had a stroke, and then I think he did.
Well, he retired. I don't think
he retired. I don't think he's passed away.
Okay.
If he has, that's news to me. But sometimes that sort of thing happens.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, Lee, what did you like best about this episode of The Mandalorian?
You're probably thinking of Kevin Conroy, who passed away.
That's what I'm thinking.
That would make a lot of sense. I just double checked. Tom Kane still alive and kicking.
Yeah,
well, at least
retired because his voice issues with the stroke. Yep.
What I really liked was the way that Din Djarin gave the saber or recognized the saber's true owner in this. And I really do feel that this is true to the character. that we've seen so far. I've seen a lot of comments like, "Oh, why is he giving this up? Why is he giving that up?" It's like, look at what he has already done. He is broken with creed and tradition, or with the first second episode, we see him like break the bounty hunter code and go after Grogu. We see him, he has to take off his mask to save Grogu. Throughout all this, he has the option to go talk to Grogu in Book of Boba Fett, or the option to leave him behind because it's what's best for him. He's constantly making these good choices that Luke Skywalker didn't make, that all these other characters didn't make. He's constantly making this morally and ethically good choice, and I thought that was a really cool way to do it. And yet we still have that chance for Bo-Katan to prove herself to everyone as like, I'm a capable fighter. And the fact that she didn't claim it when they fought the giant spider scientist, whatever the dude was.
The cyborg
Grievous clone.
Yeah, it looked like the crab droid from the Revenge of the Sith game, but also weirder. But yeah,
Yes.
that they did that. I thought that was a really cool thing. And having been a huge Tenacious D fan back in the mid '90s, like I have the up on that weird wall of DVDs there. I actually have the original TV show. Like I was watching that stuff. I was watching them on Ben Stiller.
Wow.
I remember being jazzed seeing the D in a brief cameo in Biodome. Yes, Biodome.
Well, you do realize if you saw Kevin's poster reveal, I'm the one who told him about Biodome, so I totally get it.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, but like I just remember like they were playing outside. Like I was wondering if I didn't even think Kevin would have known that one. But yeah, I've been a big Jack Black fan, and I kind of wrote you guys, but he was a well-known Shakespearean actor. Like when they were doing summer stock all over Los Angeles, he was going. I can't remember if it was UCLA or Berkeley, but like people would like, if they heard he was in something, they would go see it. And if you look at the way he performs as Jack Black or Jack Black characters, you can really see that Shakespearean heart to it. And so while everyone else is like, why is he? And it's like, this is the perfect guy. We just haven't let him be that yet. So I was really happy to see Jack doing something cool like that.
Yeah, he's having a huge week too because he's in Star Wars now, and he's going to be the voice of Bowser for the Mario movie this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So good time to be Jack Black.
My boy.
Yeah, and I have. I was going to say I haven't seen the Mario movie yet, but everything I've seen from the previews, he absolutely kills it as Bowser.
Yeah.
Well,
All right, Derek. What did you like about this episode?
So, what I loved about this is that it was a one-off episode, but yet it still maintained its relevancy to the entire plot of what's going on. So, which is weird because we just complained about Bad Batch doing an entire half a season about this, and yet it's done by the same guy, Dave Filoni. So I'm not sure what went wrong with Bad Batch and what went right here. But Mr. Filoni, so Nathan, you have to telepathic to Dave over here and tell him what you did here was great. Keep that if we get a season 3 that we talked about with Bad Batch. But yes, overall, it was just a really fun episode because at first you're like, oh, okay, we're going to get right into it, right? And then all of a sudden it just takes this sharp right or left, whatever direction you want to say. And it just maintains that for, again, 90% of the episode and just goes all over the place. And then it just gradually gets back into the correct lane and then finishes it up and ties it back in a pretty bow. And we're like, oh, okay, well, at least this gets us back to where we were and what we wanted to accomplish into the main storyline. But it was just fun because, first you see, which I knew we were going to get Lizzo because they announced it, but I didn't know we were going to get Jack Black. So that was great. I was like, okay, cool. So, and it's like, it's typical Jack Black, a little bit toned down to his normal character, but it's still perfect fit for him and all that stuff early on. And then all of a sudden you get blasted with, oh, okay, this is the episode where they're literally just throwing all the cameo people out there because we knew we were going to eventually get Christopher Lloyd because that had been rumored and talked about for a while here. So yeah, we get that. And then, it's just huge callbacks with all sorts of things that Nathan talked about from the Clone War era and episode 1 through 3 and all that stuff. So just a lot of fun. And then, knockoffs from that we were joking with Biodome, iRobot, Blade Runner, all sorts of fun stuff. Idiocracy. We even talked about some relevancy besides Idiocracy was Wall-E, right? And just the way the people are in society. But yeah, and it was just the right amount for Jack Black, because like I said, he could take it up and he was perfect for it, but he didn't go over where he can be, his totally zany off the wall stuff, which I enjoy too. But within this, it fit perfectly. So again, I really liked the episode. It was fun, and an occasional one like this is okay. I don't need every week like this, but it was a nice way to kind of get back into fun Star Wars, not just being, pure serious as much as we get with Andor, or kind of, in the middle lane, like I said, that Mandalorian does.
Yeah. Lee?
Can I just say, I do like how they had the little married thing bickering between them. Like, I fixed it. Well, obviously there's a problem with the droids, but honey, I checked and made sure myself. Well, there's still a problem. And he was right. Like, he did it right. Somebody else messed with it. Like, it wasn't his fault.
Yep.
And, I just know that this is going to be the one that he keeps, that the character is like, oh yeah, baby. Remember when you tried to blame that whole thing on me and it ended up being your guy? Yeah. I think I'm going to go to the bar with the boys tonight. I'm going to have some Nepenthe here.
Right. Yes. Well, for me, the thing I enjoyed the most was the whole story. I loved, like Derek said, how it all connected to itself at the end, and it very much reminded me of a mission or a story arc from Star Wars: The Old Republic MMO, where like the first thing you do is somebody tells you, "Oh, we got this problem with these droids down on level 12. Can you please go look into it?" And it leads into this whole big, convoluted royal conspiracy thing that has a separatist guy who's all like, "My evil plan is to bring back the droid army of Count Dooku." But like, also my major favorite part was, oh my God, Christopher Lloyd is in Star Wars now. That's so great. And they didn't kill him, so there's a chance that he might show back up. So how cool is that? So yeah, those are my favorite.
Maybe that's the we'll save it for later. Never mind. I'll save it for later because that's one of the questions.
All right. Yes. All right. So question numero dos. Lee, what did you dislike the most about this episode?
That it was so obviously Christopher Lloyd. It was very much. I saw somebody compare it to Law and Order, and I'm like, oh, you mean where as soon as you recognize an actor from something else, you know they're the ones that did it?
Right.
Yeah, that's. I was like watching it with my nephew, and I stepped out of the room to use the bathroom, and came back, and he's like, "You're not going to believe this," and I'm like, "Christopher Lloyd did it?" He's like, "You could hear that?" And I'm like, "No, but you kind of know."
Yeah.
I think a little bit deeper dig would have been more interesting, but it set up something that I really like, that the whole Dooku was right thing.
Yeah,
it's not exactly wrong. What Dooku was really fighting for isn't, if you look at the problem that the New Republic posed and how easy it was to be manipulated, what Dooku was fighting for and was manipulated into doing wasn't wrong necessarily. And I thought it was a really interesting nuanced take. So
yeah, it is a good nuanced take. I gotta say, I actually enjoyed the whole, oh, this is going to be like Law and Order, because then it really turned into like Law and Order, because they're like at the robot morgue and they're doing the little, CSI crime scene stuff with the Nepenthe and so on and so forth.
If they just needed Sam Waterston to show up at some point, that would have been like the perfect, or that would, get him in another franchise. He needs the money.
All right. Nathan, you were going to say?
With the with the thing about recognizing an actor, I've watched some old episodes of Columbo, and I don't know all that many actors from that era.
70s, yeah.
But
right, yeah.
But there's an episode with William Shatner, and it is the same thing. I'm like, oh, I know that guy. He did it. Right. There's another episode with Johnny Cash. Shockingly,
he did it.
Very involved. Yeah,
it's the tradition goes back to Batman 66, but at least they were way more on the nose. Special guest villain.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
guess that was it,
What did
Nathan?
you dislike most about this
Yeah.
episode?
All right. So the thing that I
whoever-
dislike
whoever
most
you are.
about this particular episode isn't the episode itself. It was fan reaction, because I've seen a lot of people talking about how they didn't like this episode. And I feel like sometimes we've forgotten how to just have fun.
Yeah.
This was a fun episode. It wasn't a heavy episode, but not every episode needs to be heavy.
Well, Heavy died in the Clone Wars.
That's true.
Well, and what's
Very
weird
nice.
too, Nathan, though, is that those same fans are the ones that were complaining it was too heavy when we had the Coruscant episode, right? So it's like, pick your poison, people.
Well, that and I've seen complaints about how, the Mandalorian for the first 2 seasons was very episodic and it was Adventure of the Week, and now we've moved on to this, overarching plot, and we wanted to go back to the way it was. Well, this episode very much feels like something from season 1 or season 2 of The Mandalorian. He goes somewhere, he asks for something, and they say, well, sure, but first you got to do this.
Yeah.
And he does it. This is not new ground for The Mandalorian. It's just new that Jack Black is the one doing it. And Lizzo, who I apologize, I did not know Lizzo before this episode, but when they walked in and we saw Jack Black, I thought, man, they got someone who looked a lot like Jack Black to play this character.
And then you're like, when he talked, then you're like, oh, it's Jack Black.
Yeah. Then you started talking. I'm like, man, he sounds like Jack Black. Wait a minute. This is Jack Black. Yeah, I had no idea that like you said, we knew that Christopher Lloyd was going to be in here. We had speculated that he was old Imperial, but man, no, turns out old Separatist. But we'll talk more about that later.
He predates Imperials.
So,
Can I shout out Lizzo real quick? She is a local. She's done a lot of stuff. She had a concert here not so long ago, and she shouted out her old roommates are friends of mine. She's very nice to the people in the Twin Cities. She recently had a snowplow named after her. In those contests, it's named Blizzo, and she went crazy for it.
Of course.
Around here we like our snowplows. For those of you who don't know, I'm up in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul area. But it was really cool. I didn't go to the concert because I'm an old man and I don't understand kids' music these days. But I've been impressed with her as a person. She's been amazing, and I just like seeing her, show up in this universe.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Well, and I'll be honestly, when I saw her and Jack Black, the way they were doing it, did it not remind you of Rings of Power? The way they were going there with
it did.
The dwarf, the way they were. I'm like, who came first? I mean, obviously Rings of Power has been out for several months, but I felt like it was almost the same cast of characters. I was like,
same feel, yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, but it was just fun the way, like, we were joking, right? They bickering and typical couple, right? So
yeah,
I
see where you're going there. That's a good call.
Yeah, so it's just like, oh, okay, it's the same feel. So, all right, but actually, unfortunately, the thing I disliked the most, and it had to be for what actually Lee liked the most, but it wasn't the point of what he was talking about, Din Djarin. What I disliked about it the most was that, to me, it just felt too easy of a cop out by just doing it. I wanted to see them fight, and I just figured that Din knew that Bo was a better fighter than him and that she'd win, but I really wanted to see them fight, not just, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, because to me, the problem I foresee with that is at some point, somebody's going to try and stand up to Bo-Katan and be like, well, that doesn't count. Like, I mean, they all said that there in front of them. Oh, do you agree? Yeah, I agree. But then somebody else is going to come around and some like Gar Saxon or the Saxons we talked about and be like, that's not how it real works, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Or whatever. Or even the armorer could come back and be like, well, that's not true or something like that. It just felt too easy. I actually wanted to see a little bit more to it for her to get the Darksaber, because it just is like, okay, here, because he could have done that any time and point. And I guess, he decided to be dramatic at this point, but to me, it just would have been easier had he given it to her already. To have that conversation, like it would have made more sense for her to have the Darksaber when the armorer was talking to her about it, right? Because she could have said, "Oh, you had the blessing. You've been re-blessed in the waters of the mines of Mandalore. You saw the Mythosaur, and I believe you because we've had that conversation last week, right? And you now have the Darksaber reclaimed. You need to be the one." And I felt like that to me would have been the icing on the cake for the armorer then to actually forget everything she's been talking to for the past 2.5 seasons and now say, yes, Bo-Katan needs to do us. So to me, that's where I felt I didn't like that part of it.
Yeah.
I don't think he would have fought her to keep it, though. He was willing to hand it to her right away.
Oh, he's been willing to give it to her already, and she rejected it, right?
He was willing to give it to her the second he got it.
So, but I don't think that if he fought her, he would have fought her to the best of his abilities, and I don't think
he would not have been all in.
Yeah, it would not have been a true fight on his side. He wouldn't have fought her back for it.
That's possible, but that's why I felt like, to me, she should have already, I felt like, and I still feel like this. I feel like Bo-Katan's going to have her rise and then have her fall, and Din's going to have to fight her for it and get the saber back at some point. After we reunite Mandalore, and that may be down the line, but I feel like that's how they're still going to write off Bo-Katan. I don't think it's going to be a happy ending, like we always say. We never get that in Star Wars. But anyways, but I agree. Yes, he wouldn't have, and that's where I felt like there should have been something more to that to provoke him to actually fight her for it, and she should have actually won it rather than just saying, well, by default, here's the convenience that I got trapped and whatever. It was just like, okay, to me that felt like lazy writing.
But well, I mean, technically that does mean that the cyborg creature possessed the Darksaber for a few minutes,
right?
So she did fight the person who possessed it.
It felt a little like the super secret wand in Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
And, actually, I killed the guy who had the thing. And in order to take the wand, you have to kill the previous owner.
It does do that. But like I said, I didn't like that because to me, I would have liked the other more draw, like I said, just the way it was. That's all. Like I said, I just didn't feel like it was. I at the end of the day, I don't think we're done with that portion. I think there's going to be something else that's going to tie to that. But like I said, it just didn't feel, to me, it didn't feel like she earned it.
But what I'm wondering,
I would agree if she hadn't let him keep it, because it was just sitting there waiting for him to pick up. She didn't even think about keeping it, and I think that's a sense of nobility, and I think that's also, the armorer didn't see it, but that's the type of character that the armorer saw in Bo-Katan.
Yeah,
she's like, oh, she was accepted. She's like, but I do not walk the way. She was very open. She was very honest, and I think that, as a character, as much as I would love to see that fight as a fight monkey, as a character, I don't see a better way to resolve that, because it is not the expected way. Yeah. And as a fight choreographer, I love doing things the unexpected way. And I think everyone's been gearing up like, ooh, how's this going to happen? Because obviously she's bitter that she doesn't have it, but she's never wanted to challenge him to take it. And, he got it while she was helping him save his kid. So he is always going to feel grateful for that. Like, he would never be able to fight her in a way that would do justice to the creed. So I think it was even the way that we see him still struggle with it, and she used it just fine. You guys talked about it on that episode. Like, she's the one that's supposed to have it. And I think it was just subtle enough, but I do kind of wish, even though I
think we'll still get it.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm wondering at this point, did the armorer know what had happened? Had Din told her, yeah, I got captured by this thing, and I dropped the Darksaber, and then Bo-Katan came, picked up the Darksaber, and beat the thing that beat me. So if the armorer knew that, she might have known already that, technically this means that Bo-Katan won it from the current owner, which is the thing that beat you.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm all for that, but then don't leave that out. I want to see that conversation, right?
You want to see the armorer.
Now we're just making assumptions with it, right?
Yeah,
well,
it would be you could see the armorer telling Din, "Hey, make sure that you reveal this information at the right moment."
But also the enigmatic way that we've seen the armorer. She doesn't believe her. Oh, she does. Like, there's there's layers going on that are being peeled back.
Well, and I could see Bo telling the armorer later, this is how I got the Darksaber, and the armorer being like, I know. It's like, yeah, Din told me a long time ago. I knew this whole time. That's why I sent you.
And then if that's the case, I'll retract my dislike about this because then the story's complete.
So I'm hoping that's the case. I do understand your point if it's not.
Yeah.
Like I said,
for me, go ahead, Derek.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, like I said, to me, it goes back to last week what we talked about. I just don't like how the armor. I just don't feel it's complete yet. And again, there could be stuff written and it just got blocked out because it took up too much time. But to me, I just feel like I said, there's something else going on, which obviously we were all going to suspect. But there's something going on either between Bo with the armor or something that we just don't know because it just seems too easy at the moment to me that it's all falling into place right now. So
I don't know. That fight didn't seem all that easy.
Well, that just happened to be the small side quest that she had to get past.
So for me, the thing I dislike most, you guys know how in Star Trek Insurrection, Data is like all of a sudden, once again, Mr. I don't understand emotions. Humans are so weird. I don't know how to tell jokes. And we're like, why is he acting like he acted 3 seasons ago on the TV show? I felt the exact same way when Din Djarin starts kicking droids around and trying to torture them. I'm like, didn't you make peace with your whole I hate droids back with IG-11?
No, he made peace with a droid.
I understand that, but it felt like it was a bit of regression here for Din. Now, part of that can be explained by only one kind of droid pointed a gun at him when he was like an 8-year-old child. And that was the droid he was kicking, the model of droid that he was kicking at the cargo center. But still, when they got to the bar for the droids, first of all, droid bar, how epic is that? But when he got there, he grabbed, the resistor. And he grabbed that shock prod thing and he was all like, tell me what I want to know, I'm going to cut out your tongue or whatever. I was just like, whoa, man, ease up, you know? What happened to Mr. I guess some droids are okay. You know, it's
some droids are okay.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, but it felt a little regressive. And didn't you learn a lesson about this back in season 1?
Well, the thing was, is normally you'd be okay with this because you normally would see the actor's face and he'd be like, this is the episode I get to play that character, bad cop again, but you can't see him wink at the camera. So. True. But he was absolutely bad cop in multiple situations here. Even Bo-Katan was all like, bro, you are not helping.
but really, he was good cop to the Ugnaughts.
He was.
Yeah.
He was. That was cool.
Spoken.
Yeah, he's like, you have to talk to him in a certain way. So good. But yeah, that was my only disappointment of angry anti-droid bigot Din Djarin came back for a few hours there where he was all like, droids. Urgh.
You had me at battle droids.
Yeah. Anyway. Okay. All right. Question number 3. Derek, what connections did you draw to the rest of the Star Wars galaxy?
I mean, the entire episode.
Right? The whole thing. The whole thing is just one.
I mean, the only thing you could technically say didn't relate back to it was that we had actually characters on here we've never seen before. But other than that, everything was basically tied back to the Clone Wars and
chock-a-block of classic trilogy alien races too, hanging around the banquet table. Snaggletooth was there, Greedo guys were there, Rhodians were there.
Ithorians.
We saw Ithorians, and then of course at the beginning we had Quarrens and Mon Calamari.
Yeah. So
and we had Frog Ladies.
Yes.
And Frog Lady, yeah.
I was gonna say my biggest thing was obviously the battle droids and having fun with that. Christopher Lloyd. I mean, I'll let people talk a bit more about that. We'll have some good conversation. Lee was already talking about with Dooku and the way he was doing. Like to me, that was some deep, philosophy or political or however science you want to say about it. But it was all there. But I would say definitely the one thing that stood out to me the most, which I enjoyed, was you brought it up just before we got into this Ugnaughts and how they're like way in the subterranean basement, just like in Cloud City. And they had everything disassembled and they were working on it. Right. So that to me was just a lot of fun because you actually got to see them spend a little bit more time, rather than poor Chewie trying to find 3PO. So.
Yeah. Cool. Nathan, what connections did you draw?
Tons of them, obviously. So the Mon Cala that we see at the beginning is a noble person. So they may actually be related to a character that we met in a particular arc in the Clone Wars, where the Quarren and the Mon Cala were fighting against each other. Because there's a prince among the Mon Cala who has to prove himself in this war, and he does so by making an alliance with the Gungans from the Naboo. But
making friends with Captain Akbar.
Yeah, that's true. Yes. So the person that we see here, the Mon Cala that we see here, may be related to that one. Now, that's not confirmed. There's no names linking them, but it's a matter of how much nobility is there on Mon Cala among the Mon Cals, because there are actually two. The Quarren are a whole different, sentient race from the same planet. So I thought that was cool. Then, of course, obviously the Separatist stuff. I thought it was interesting that the Separatist, Doc Brown, Hellgate,
Yes,
he's got a Star Wars name, was talking about how great Dooku was, but the Separatists had a Senate the same way that the Republic did. They just had different people in their Senate.
Yeah.
There was still the opportunity for corruption. So I don't know how much. Dooku, I think, had a lot of good ideas that he went about in the exact wrong ways.
Sure.
But some of his ideas weren't really all that different from the Republic. It's interesting to me that you have a Separatist who's fighting against the rule of an independent planet. Like, they have separated. You have accomplished your goal. What are you doing?
I think he's such a Dooku apologist that he's so committed to Dooku's ideas. He wants that kind of government, not a direct democracy, which we got told several times. That's what we're doing here on what is the name of the place? Paizu 15?
Placer 15. Placer 15.
Placer 15. We got told several times that that was their style of government. And it's clear that Hellgate didn't like that style of government. And by the way, that wasn't the style of government that Placer 15 had before Jack Black arrived.
It's true.
So, that's the whole thing. It's kind of like you had a lot of Soviets who didn't like the way that the USSR was functioning, but they loved what Lenin had in mind, or more to the point, they loved what Marx had in mind, and they wanted to go back to that. And so I think Hellgate would have been a Marxist communist if he had been here on Earth in the 1950s USSR.
That does make sense.
Fun fact about who voiced the Mon Calamari nobleman, because I was trying to find any information, and you're right, they just listed as that, is Harry Holland, Tom Holland's younger brother.
Whoa, cool.
Yeah, I was trying to place the voice the whole time. I'm like, this sounds really familiar. But it turns out it was just because he sounds a lot like his brother.
Right. All right, Lee, what connections did you draw from the rest of the Star Wars galaxy?
And I've been holding my tongue commenting on it earlier, but I really think that this is an episode that isn't a standalone, but it's meant to connect a lot of stuff that's going on and show what's leads to the First Order, kind of like you guys were talking about last week. But in this, we have this society that has outsourced military responsibility, much like the old Republic had, and has kind of gone into this tiered or stratified system where, like you mentioned, you have the Ugnaughts living way underground.
Yeah.
And we're seeing this a week after we've got an Ugnaught on the bridge of a ship, doing something other than just being a robot repairman.
A droid jacket.
Yeah, exactly. And we're seeing, this level of middle class that's represented in a lot of ways by Christopher Lloyd. And then you have this, elite ruling class that doesn't really do anything, much like we see on Canto Bight. And I think that it's setting up a stage where taking in with all the problems that we saw with decommissioning all the old military equipment in 2 episodes ago, with the way that the ladies' man doesn't want to help out these planets. It's setting the stage for why there is a resistance and a republic and a first order, because private armies are going to be coming up, and this is there's a huge historical precedent for it. To this day, the Vatican is guarded by Swiss mercenaries. They're codified corps. They're not really mercenaries at this point. They don't take jobs in Southern Africa or anything like that, but it's still the same principle, and it's setting up for a revolution like we saw in France. Stuff like we would see in the Civil War, stuff like we saw shortly after the Battle of Plataea in Sparta. Shortly, we see it in Rome. Kind of half with Attila and half with just all the various slave and peasant uprisings. They're really filling in the gaps pretty well. I think kind of like the Clone Wars made episodes 2 and 3 better. I think that in the fullness of time, we're going to get a really good version of this that saves 7 and 8, and 9 will still suck. But I'm seeing a very big tapestry being set forward, and I think Ahsoka and Skeleton Crew hopefully will help improve this tapestry. Yeah.
So,
dragging it back to the 21st century, Lee, don't we have mercenaries fighting for Putin right now in Ukraine?
Yes, we do. And we had mercenaries fighting for us in Iraq, Afghanistan, all over the world.
Blood money for diamonds, everything.
Yeah. So. It's we pretend like it's a strange thing, but a physical country or state using mercenary has a historical precedent to the fact that what we call our military members in the army soldiers sold. It is a sellsword. Right. Speaking of, I did want to get a couple other translations in. Nepenthe actually goes back to Homer. It is a drink that you would get to fix your mind and forget all about things. Interesting reference. Planet Plaisir, that's French for happiness or pleasure. And General Bombardier, Bombardier, a bomber. He's an Imperial guy. Like that's, interesting little references there. And then of course Hellgate. I don't know. That just doesn't mean anything. I suppose that's definitely not a bad guy name.
No. Anytime a name has hell in it, that's a good thing, right?
I assumed he was. I thought he was the good guy here. I thought he was going to bring world peace. So
I do find it interesting talking about Bombardier. He is part of the amnesty program, but he's not Officer K-15 or whatever.
Yeah.
He has a name. I'm wondering if he gave himself that name. And I wonder if by facilities manager or whatever he called himself means that he bombed facilities.
Yeah. I think his name was Robert Paulson. His name was Robert Paulson. He's part of, old reference to people that saw, Fight Club. Everyone had numbers until they died. And then in death, we get a name. His name was Robert Paulson.
Yeah, Robert Paulson. So
sorry, I'm an old alpha dude, apparently.
So the big connection that I was able to draw was, of course, this is actually relatively recent, so I don't know if this counts as other parts of the Star Wars galaxy. But anyway, Axe Woves and Koska Reeves came back. So that was cool. I was happy to see that not only did we have Bo-Katan get re-involved with her Mandalorian pirate fleet, but the 2 people that were with her last time are still part of the story. Like, they didn't just let, Mercedes...
They didn't die.
They didn't die, and they didn't let them just evaporate, right? It was cool that they brought back those characters from, last season. So I was happy to see that. I'm trying to think if there was one more connection that I was able to draw.
Now the question I had is the Star Destroyer they're flying, is that Moff Gideon's?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So there you go.
Which is like the Corvus class cruiser or something, right?
Yeah.
So the one that they hijacked, they're still driving it around. So
Yeah. Oh, also, I liked seeing the little Rex droids from the Star Tours ride at Disneyland drinking at the bar, the droid bar. That was cool. I
But-
know we'd seen him once before as like a server or whatever at the bar in last season, or sorry, in Book of Boba Fett. But it's cool to
Yeah,
see
that's
him
nice.
there.
They
as a
were
little-
poker dealers or sabacc dealers.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really do wish that they had said, "Oh man, I am so Rexed." That would have been just a perfect dad joke. And you said droids, and it reminded me of the other one. We get to see the interrogator droid not interrogating.
Yeah, he was like medical assistant droid, and
Yeah,
he
and then he tried to
haywire.
kill everyone. So
Yeah, right, with his scaffold lasers or whatever.
Kill now, ask questions never.
Yes.
New form of interrogation. But yeah, we also got the RA7 style droid and the black astromech
Mhm.
at the beginning, which of course they recognize as Imperial. But that RA7 droid we first saw in, well, it wasn't even A New Hope at the time, Star Wars in '77.
yeah.
Yeah. And
The only thing
and-
is, I wish they would have gotten Paul. I was going to say though, with your Star Tour droids, I wish they would have gotten Paul Rubin to do some voice acting for it.
Yep.
That'd have been great.
Yes. And if you watched the episode with the closed captioning on, as I always do nowadays, Nathan, not only was it an RA7 style droid, the captioning said RA7 : welcome to 115.
Oh, no, I
It's
didn't watch
not
it with
just
the.
an RA7 droid. It is RA7.
It is
at least according
that
to the closed
RA7.
captioning. Yeah.
So somehow it got off the Death Star before it blew.
Yeah. Now, didn't we see RA7 on the Death Star in A New Hope during the part where Luke and them are running around, not
Yes.
during the Battle of Yavin?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. He's
So
on
he had
the
some time.
he's on the walkway where they get onto the turbo lifts.
So he didn't overestimate their chances.
No.
You know, my theory that I'm hatching right now that is just based on the fact that he got off the Death Star.
Best kind of
per-
theory, the one you're hatching right now.
Perhaps he belonged to General Tage, who we know got off the Death Star, or even if not Tage, somebody else from that summit. To bring it back to the Bad Batch episode.
Did
Same
Wolf
title.
Yularen make it off, or did he die?
I don't know that we know.
Yeah.
Because he
That's a
could
good
be an
question.
ISB agent droid.
He is an ISP agent in the card game, if I
Yeah,
remember correctly.
that's what I was going to say.
So
Yeah.
I'm saying, so maybe he's Wolf Yularen's droid.
This reminds me of something you guys were talking about last week. R5D4. Not like, oh, why has he got to be in the Alliance now? He has been in the Alliance technically since at least '83, when the Y-wing fighter was first released on the box. It had Admiral Akbar as the pilot, and R5 was the astromech in it. So at least going back to Lucasfilm, he's been part of the Alliance. So
There you go, Nathan.
There is some
You have to
precedence
accept it
for
now. It was canon since before you were born.
No, I don't have to accept it. Trust me, I'm a Star Wars fan. I don't have to accept anything.
Touche. Although
That's
I like,
gatekeeping.
And
I
canon.
wanna, it's hell gatekeeping, baby.
Yeah, callback. Scott wins.
I'm so happy that Lee said that about the Y-wing, because I had forgotten that Admiral Akbar is canonically
With the
a
Y-wing.
starfighter pilot, because
Yeah,
we don't
yeah.
see him doing that. But yes, definitely. Good times.
Well,
Okay,
that's what he
all
did
right.
before he got the pilot home one. You had to start somewhere.
You
right?
gotta start somewhere. You get promoted later. Yeah.
He,
totally.
we already talked about this. He started as a captain in the army on Mon Cala.
Mhm. Yeah.
And he
And
saw
at
the
some
Y-wing
point
and he
he-
said, why not wing?
Oh,
Zing wing. Woo.
All right. Anyway, okay. Question number 4. Here we are into the customized questions, and I came up with this one, so I'll ask. If I'm not, unless I'm incorrect, which is totally possible, this is the first time we've seen anything that approaches nanobots in Star Wars. Now we've had midichlorians, of course, but nanobots, I don't really recall that in Star Wars.
That's a Star Trek thing.
Yeah, exactly. So nano droids are now a thing, right down to the fact that they have microscopic writing on them. So, Nathan, will we see nano droids again?
I think we will. I think that's not a concept that you can introduce and then just not have show up again. It's too useful from a storytelling standpoint to just pretend it doesn't exist from here on out. But I do love the fact that they call them nano droids and not nanobots.
Yes, you got to stay on brand, baby.
Yeah, it's a very Star Wars way of looking at it. I can't think of a time offhand that I feel like we've heard of nano droids before, but I can't think of a time offhand where we have. So while other people answer, I'm going to see if I can figure that out.
All right, Lee. Also, what did you think of nano droids as a concept, and do you think we'll see them again in Star Wars?
Considering how many other places we've seen it, I'm not all that thrilled to have it again. I mean, we had the nanite wars in Stargate, which I loved. We've had nanites, everywhere. It's kind of the thing that a lot of sci-fi has done, and Star Wars has always kind of been the innovator, and to kind of take, obviously they stole from Flash Gordon, but like to kind of take something that just the dead horse has been beaten back to life and injected with nanites at this point, or nanodroids or nanobots or whatever we want to call them. I kind of hope not. And as far as being, a really useful thing that we'll never see again, midichlorians, they didn't bring that back. So, but I don't think people like that.
Yeah.
So I knew it was niggling at the back of my mind that we had heard of these before. And indeed we have. They are what was used to cause the explosion that was blamed on Ahsoka that led to her leaving the Jedi Order.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So connection to the greater Star Wars universe. Maybe something's coming.
True. Derek, what you got?
Two things. First, I think we will because that's how they're going to bring IG-11 back.
Oh.
But here's, and this is probably giving them actually too much credit. But we've already talked about this, and it's a big thing coming up. It's not only a big thing coming up this summer, it's also a big announcement they just announced a little bit ago that they're going to reveal at Celebrations this weekend. And I would give them too much credit if they actually decided to do it here in Mandalorian and then have it connect to the entire Star Wars universe. But what is coming up in the comics, gentlemen? First, it comes for the medal.
Oh yeah.
So
the High Republic stuff.
Well, no, the whole thing that they're talking about that's linking between Dr. Aphra, Darth Vader, the bounty hunters in the comics.
Oh yeah, you're right. But then
the big summer reveal thing coming this, the big interlinked story.
Yeah, the big crossover this summer.
So what comes for the medal? Nanobots.
Nanobots, yeah.
Again, it's maybe giving them too much credit. And again, would it be cool if that, because they're supposed to reveal the big baddie this weekend in Celebrations? And would it not make sense that the baddie had nanobots?
That would be awesome.
So,
anyways, I could totally see that. So and I'd be happy
that to me would be some correlation to connect it to the rest of the Star Wars universe, other than what Nathan talked about. We've already had them, but again, I think if we're going to get it any more in Mandalorian, it would be to bring back IG-11. So,
okay, cool. I'll answer my own question here. Yes, I think we will see them again. Because for all the reasons that Nathan mentioned, they're too good of a storyline thing. And as Lee was talking about, genre fans, science fiction fans are already acclimated.
We love tiny robots.
Yeah, tiny robots. I mean, even Iron Man.
Giant robots. One or the other.
Yes, yeah. I don't want regular size robots. That's too boring. Anyway, even Iron Man used nanobots for his armor in Infinity War. So and Endgame. So totally acceptable. And overall, I thought the way they were used in this episode of The Mandalorian was really cool. I enjoyed the whole concept. Although I'm sort of with Lee here. One, I want Star Wars to be the innovator. They come up with stuff and other people copy them, not the other way around. And two, I always feel like, as Nathan and I used to discuss years ago, Star Wars is the analog universe and Star Trek is the digital universe. And there's nothing very analog about microbots. I mean, like, we have scopes and laser swords and flashlights, We don't have transporters and long-range scanners and phasers in Star Trek.
But we have cloak technology.
We do have cloak technology, although that is a little bit easier to analog out by bending light with perhaps even
Yeah.
physical means. Anyway, my point
but
is,
when we send a probe, the astromech actually sends part of his head into
yeah, we don't have
whatever
like
you're
something
probing.
that pops out of the torpedo tube, you know. Anyway, and also we don't bend space to travel faster than light. We take shortcuts through another dimension. You know, Anyway, it doesn't like nanobots, nanites, if you will, don't fit with Star Wars overall aesthetic for the most part. But I guess we'll just have to accept it because, like Nathan said, it's already happened.
There is one possibility for why we might not see them much going forward in the timeline, at least. These nanobots were created by the Techno Union, which is very, very dead. Cut down in its prime by the Jedi Enforcer. Oh, sorry, Doc Brown didn't quite get out Anakin Skywalker there. So
Somehow he knew. Somehow he knew Darth Vader was Anakin.
well, no.
He said Jedi Enforcer, so like that was definitely publicized.
Yeah, but Anakin was a poster boy for the Republic.
Yeah, well, and when he cut down Dooku, he was still Anakin. Not Darth Vader.
And I mean, it's very possible that like everybody on Coruscant was watching a live feed of that battle because the ship was like right there about to crash into Coruscant. I always thought that there were like droids or at least things hovering around to report on it for the media.
Probably.
They had the fire ships ready to walk them in, so yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the droids in this one, the nano droids in this one, were created by the Techno Union. It's entirely possible that the nano droids used in the bombing at the Jedi Temple were also created by the Techno Union. If Palpatine was manipulating Barisafi into doing the whole thing, he definitely could have gotten Techno Union technology for her. With the Techno Union no longer being around, maybe the technology to create the nanobots is no longer around either.
Maybe that's who he's trying to clone.
Techno Union
Wat
guys?
Tambor?
Yeah, he's going to try and clone them so he can have them make more nanobots.
Two things. A, I want Wat Tambor to be voiced by Jeffrey Tambor. And B, I want the Techno Union to be alive so that when Ahsoka comes back, maybe she's got an apprentice and they've got their glow sticks and they do a really cool, dance fight.
Rave.
Yes, I need that fight.
And Rex is the DJ.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
No, DJ is the DJ.
Oh my
A
god.
young
question number
DJ. A young
5?
DJ. So we're gonna. Well, I mean, while we're here, I mean, we've already jumped into the question number 5 because mine was supposed to be a little bit more fun.
Question 5.
If you be creative here, guys, what crazy other celebrity would you like to see guest star in The Mandalorian? And Lee's already jumped right in, so.
Oh no,
Jeffrey Tambor at this point. I've picked Paul Rubin.
All right, Nathan's going to have the most trouble with this question since he doesn't know much about celebrities.
The vast majority of celebrities that I know are from Star Wars. I want D. Bradley Baker to show up in live action.
That'd be cool.
Like not related to clones at all.
See, I was going to say John Williams, but he already did it. So, that's
D. Bradley Baker could play an Imperial. Because that's what they all do, right? They play Imperials.
Yeah. No, my real answer is I want one of the other big-time Disney stars to make the jump to Star Wars because we've had, so many Disney stars that were famous for some. Maybe. Now, I would accept that. Now, that would be cool. Oh, my gosh. I wasn't even thinking about her, but that would also give us a Dune connection, which would be just amazeballs. Anyway, but no, I was thinking somebody like Downey or Chris Evans. Like having Buzz Lightyear show up in Star Wars, if you will, would be hilarious. So yeah, I would like to see one of the big Avengers names show up as a character in Star Wars as a good guy and help the rebellion or Mando and friends, whichever time frame we're talking about here. So that's my answer. Is I'm going to narrow it down to Chris Evans. I'd like to see Captain America show up. to do
You just want
something
to see
cool
his
in
ass.
Star
That's all.
Wars.
You want to see America's ass. That's all.
America's
I'm going to change my answer so I'm not cannibalizing from Star Wars. Anson Mount,
Oh
There you
yeah,
go.
Christopher Pike himself.
yes.
Would he
And
have a
he's
funny
also
hairdo to go with it, though?
Oh, absolutely.
Or would he
Pike's
be
Peak,
bald?
baby.
The-
No, he'd play a pike.
oh my
Yes, one of
gosh.
the Pikes.
Oh my
That
gosh.
would be
Yes.
so great.
One of the Pikes, but with one of the helmets that
Yeah.
goes up like this, so that the Pike has a peak. Oh yes, book it.
Yes.
Oh, and
Or-
his character name has to be Bohannon. If anyone saw Hell on Wheels, that's
Yeah.
Or
That's
we
a
could
good-
make a Black Bolt reference.
Yes,
since
we could.
Anson Mount has worked for Disney before, so he could be his character's a Pike, but he never speaks.
Yep.
Mhm.
Or only whispers.
Yeah,
Careless Whispers.
careless whispers, careless
Okay.
whispers. Ah, good times. All
I
right.
have my
well,
good answer, if I may.
Okay, yes. What's your not Jeffrey Tambor? What's your good answer?
Antonio Banderas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Liberace?
Yeah, El Mariachi, Zorro. He was fantastic as Gago in Expendables 3. Kind of
Puss
the
in
high
Boots?
point of the Puss in Boots. And he's played a really good assassin opposite Sylvester Stallone in Assassins.
Mhm.
And I'm just thinking like that shootout in El Mariachi with a jetpack and lasso and like flamethrowers and darts. Come on, man! Like that's what we need in this world.
So
Yeah.
would he wouldn't be part of the initial Creed though? He would be part of Axel's and Cascaree's band of them because he would have to have his helmet off. Because there's no way they're going to put Antonio Banderas in there and not have him not show his gorgeous face.
What if he's like
Yeah.
a Mareel, like Jaster Mareel or Jodo Cast or like their descendants or
yeah.
like a Scarata? I mean, come on, a Jank Scarata played by Antonio Banderas would be straight up baller. You know, we wouldn't need to change the voice because we've already got kind of the Latino.
He
in
could
Din
fight.
Djarin.
He could fight Cobb Vanth, and him and Timothy Olyphant could have it duked out.
Yeah.
Two Western guys, right? From Justified. So
Derek, you complete me.
I got you, babe.
That is the best thing that has ever been said. I need this right. Damn it. Baloney.
Go get your hat, Nathan. We need you to no.
Hear me,
No.
Concaro.
Oh my god, this needs to happen. Oh, that
so
reminds
good.
me. Bullock Canyon also has a second reference to Star Wars characters. Seth Bullock was the character played by Timothy Olyphant in Deadwood. So,
Oh yeah.
where he was the marshal the first time he played a marshal.
Yep.
First of three so far.
Well, I still think he's going to end up on Navarro as the there some point, right? As the actual marshal for
As
them.
their marshal,
Mando's
yeah.
like officially hired, right? So like Mando's will be off in their prairie out thing, and Cobb Vanth will be back there at Navarro. So
Yeah, that would be awesome. All right, well, if any of those things do happen on future episodes of The Mandalorian or any other Star Wars series, because we were going way far afield with this, we'll talk about them on a future episode of What a Piece of Junk. But for now, we're going to take a quick break so y'all can hear about the other shows on the FPN.
Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. Here are the other great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network. Culture Clash, where we discuss the latest in entertainment and pop culture. Blood of Kings, our show covering the entire Highlander universe. Couch Potato Theater, we celebrate our favorite movies. And Time Warp, our fandom flashback show discussing a year in movies and our favorite retro movie, TV, and pop culture topics. Good Evening, discussing all things Alfred Hitchcock. Hair Metal Podcast, we cover the rock metal music of the 80s and early 90s. Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast, discussing the time-traveling Doctor Who universe. Lethal Mullet, an action film podcast covering the 80s, 90s, and beyond. Also, check out the Lethal Mullet Network for more great podcasts. What a Piece of Junk, our Star Wars podcast. Making Treks, a Star Trek podcast with a deep dive into the final frontier. The Fandom Show, our Fandom Podcast Network live YouTube show discussing the hottest topics in fandom. The True Believers MCU podcast discussing the Marvel Cinematic and Television Universe. Union Federation, our Star Trek and the Orville show. And we're proud to welcome the BQN Network to the Fandom Podcast Network. please visit our friends on the BQN Network, a Star Trek Universe podcast that also includes your favorite topics, movies, history, superheroes, and more. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on YouTube. The Fandom Podcast Network is also on all major podcast platforms. The Fandom Podcast Network audio master feed is on Podbean at fpnet.podbean.com. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, respect others and enjoy your fandom.
All right, great. Thanks so much, Kevin. Well, guys, you may have heard there's a little bit of a Star Wars thing happening over across the pond in London this weekend. It's Star Wars Celebration London 2023, and we're probably going to hear announcements of some new Star Wars projects. Derek already mentioned that there's a lot of comic book stuff being talked about at Celebration, but of course there is a Lucasfilm showcase panel as well. And everyone out there is almost guaranteed that there's going to be an announcement of whatever the next Star Wars feature film is, amongst other things. So let's talk a little speculation here. Lee, what's some stuff that you hope to see, and what do you predict, is almost guaranteed to happen?
What I really hope to see, just based on the timing of this event, is I want to see a Vader standalone, a Luke standalone, and a Obi-Wan standalone, because it's Easter and we have the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Would be Qui-Gon because we already got Obi-Wan.
Oh yeah, but they both play as spirits in this world.
True.
What I would really like is something going forward about whatever the end game series is going to be. I would love to see something about the Rangers of the New Republic. Obviously, they haven't abandoned the idea with the way that they kind of set up Zeb and Trapper Wolf in the last episode. And I think that that kind of cool space Vietnam thing would be a lot of fun. Obviously, they have a look that they decided on for it, and I'm there for it.
Yeah.
I would really like to see some fun video game news. I would go crazy if they had a true like Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead Redemption style Star Wars game for us to play that had true open world, true like build your own character class kind of thing. I would love to see that.
And it's taking place in like Nowhata or Ord Mantell, someplace where it's like the underground, right? So you get all sorts of syndicate.
Yep, and I'd honestly just like to see maybe a little bit of growth in the Galaxy's Edge areas. I know that there's room to expand. Having, been a fan of at least MGM Studios, that's how old I am. I still call it MGM Studios.
Yeah.
Knowing how much more there is behind that they can expand into. I mean, they got the big doors, all that. I'd just love to see another ride. And my hope, and I know it's completely pie in the sky, but do an Avatar ride, but you're in a jetpack, and instead of 3D goggles, you have to put on the Mando helmet.
Oh, that would be cool.
Right? Wouldn't that be like, yeah. But I'm probably not getting any of those. However, I'm a Star Wars fan, so Lucasfilm will have betrayed me and pooped on my childhood if they don't do exactly as I say.
I would be fine if they just said that the Mandalorian and Grogu are not just going to be at Disneyland, but they're going to come to Disney World.
Yeah,
that would be nice because I'm going in October, and it'd be great to take Sophia so that I can go see baby Grogu. So
yeah. Derek, continue, please. What do you expect to see, and what do you hope to see, other than Grogu comes to Disney World?
No, well, I mean, honestly, I was when I saw, like I said, the latest announcement with the Marvel, the comics there talking about the big reveal. I'd like to see what they're going to do with the big link between it, right? Because I like when they have an overarching thematic storyline. That we used to get back in the day, right? I mean, and we're kind of getting that potentially, depending what they're going to do with Gideon / Thrawn,
Right.
and what they're going to do. And I think that's kind of what Lee was alluding to a little bit, to understand what our overarching story. I mean, yeah, it's cloning at this point, I guess, because that's all we're made to believe. And maybe they won't reveal it maybe they will, but some more projects, would be nice to maybe get that understanding. But I'd like to see more projects outside of what our current timeline is, right? I mean, as much as I want to see more Zeb and all the Rangers of the Republic would be great. But give me something announcement that I don't even care if they're going to do a animated series for the High Republic. Give me something to go there that's outside or be great, because they've been talking a bit more rumors with Donald Glover. Maybe we'll finally get our Orlando thing officially announced. That would be wonderful. And Aaron's going to come back and play Han, and all that stuff would be wonderful, right? So that would be the next best thing for me to get that with the Lando series truly locked in, announced. Would be my top tier thing, even more honestly than a movie right now, because I don't need a movie announcement unless if they came out like we talked about and actually had footage and saying, surprise, we've been shooting this for the past 2 years and nobody's, it's been somewhere in the volume, in the middle of the wee hours, and nobody's working right when the maintenance crew guys out there and they're all stealthing in and doing all these, filming scenes without anybody noticing. Because again, I don't really care. Bob Iger can say all he wants that we need more Star Wars. We need more Star Wars. Well, great. Well, give me something then, right? That's actually going to be great to entertain. But yeah, I would like to see some cohesiveness, but I'd also like to see some things outside that aren't like just Mandalorian we talked about that aren't related to the Force. Do we lose Scott? Nathan, why don't you go ahead?
I think we might have, but I'll go ahead and go. So there's a few things that I want. I think the first thing I want is an announcement of a live feed, 24/7 live feed of Baby Grogu. Just anytime you want to tune in, just have Baby Grogu cooing in the background. You can do that. I want to hear an announcement that Epcot is being turned into Plaisir 15. That they're just going to
and already
change. Is. That's why they don't have to do all that much. They'll just add Jack Black and Lizzo
and Christopher Lloyd,
and then you're already there. So Star Wars can just take over Orlando 2. I think that would be good. I really want them to announce that they're making Solo 2 happen. That would
only
honestly,
if they call it Duo.
Sure, why not? I mean, Han and Chewie, they're a good duo. Honestly, if they do announce a movie, that's the one I'd probably be most excited about. I highly doubt that they're going to do episode 10, 11, 12. Or if they do, it's going to be years and years into the future. Any other movie that they announced, I would really hope would be set years and years into the future. Like what we've talked about with Visions, where there's that one that's set like 900 years in the future. I'd be good with that, just to get us into a new time frame where we can have entirely new stories. Don't think that's going to happen, but I'd be okay with an announcement about that.
If they made the 9th Jedi live action, that would be cool.
Yes,
That would be cool.
Yeah,
that would be cool. Honestly, that is what I'd like to see is something set in that time frame using that story idea, like that setting idea. Beyond that, I'd like for them to announce that I'll be playing Dave Filoni in a biopic.
Biopic.
Yeah. That's about all I got. Scott, what do you got?
Here's what I expect. I expect Daisy Ridley to come on stage with BB-8, and Bob Iger will be there to announce the next Star Wars movie that has her playing Rey, and then bring out several other actors and actresses that are new to the Star Wars galaxy playing new characters. And this won't be episode 10, but it will take place into the future from episode 9 and pick up a few of the weird strangling threads we had from The Rise of Skywalker. Specifically, I think that Naomi Ackie will be back as Jaina, and Billy D. Williams will be back as Lando to help her go find her parents, friends, family, etc. I'm not 100% sure that John Boyega will be back as Finn, but that I could see that happening. I do not think Oscar Isaac will be back as Poe Dameron. But I think that Daisy will be back because she's a popular character, and I think that Bob Iger wants to move forward. TV-wise, streaming-wise, we're going to stay in the Mando zone timeline for a while now. So I expect another new streaming series in the Mandoverse to be announced. And I think that The Acolyte is an outlier since it's set way, way in the past compared to all the
not
current.
that far,
Right?
I thought it was just pre Sidious.
It's supposed to be at the tail end of the High Republic era. So
Yeah.
I think it's supposed to be close to 300 years before the
that far?
Phantom Menace.
Oh, okay.
I think that's right.
I thought it was
wrong.
like 60 years.
I could be
Maybe.
wrong. There's no super hard concrete info about it yet.
Fair enough.
So yeah. Anyway, so that's what I expect to happen. I also expect some video game announcements like Lee was talking about. I don't know if it'll be a Red Dead Redemption kind of thing in the Star Wars galaxy, but I expect some kind of video game announcements. I expect a new mobile game to be announced, honestly. I hope, so here's what I hope. I hope that we get Solo 2. And I hope that we get a new customizable card game, a card game where you buy packs and things at random and you build your own decks. Part of me was all like, oh, the CCG thing is over with. But then Digimon and Dragon Ball Z and Flesh and Blood.
Their new thing was it called Lorcana? Is the one that's coming out. If that's successful this year, because that's supposed to launch the end of this year. If that comes out and is successful, I could see that happening next year. Now, not to say they don't do it, but I can almost guarantee you're absolutely right. We'll definitely get that next year if that hits off, selling out the door before they can do any, reprints.
Yeah, it's like I thought that CCGs were done for, and then you had all these new generation CCGs making a lot of money, and then of course, Pokemon and old school Magic the Gathering stuff during the pandemic made bukus of money with like the card values went through the roof for some crazy reasons.
Because we all got money now, Scott.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, exactly.
We didn't have money as kids, but now we do.
Right. But the point is there's plenty of money to be made in CCGs once again, and so I'm hoping that Star Wars will have one. I think that's probably about all I'm expecting. Comic book wise, I'm with Derek. I want to see what the big bad is for that summer crossover, and I think they will do that. I hope against hope for one, perhaps last time, to have a cool promo code from Celebration to use in Star Wars The Old Republic MMO, as we did in years past, Nathan. All right, cool. Well, that's what we all expect from Celebration. So hopefully we'll get to see that. But now it's time for Derek's favorite part of the show. What Star Wars shirts are we wearing this week? Lee, as our guest, we'll let you go first. Do you have one of these Star Wars threads?
That I do, sir. I've got the Tipsy Tauntaun.
The Tipsy Tauntaun Pub and Brewery. Good times. It's got a Tauntaun drinking ale. That's awesome.
And, it's just been so chilly here lately that, I had to...
you're cold.
Yeah, we had a blizzard. 10 inches of snow dropped in one day. It took me an hour and a half to drive 12 miles. So yeah.
Wow.
And I've been meaning to show this one off for a while, but the ILM cap, I got my headgear on, so I can't wear it.
Woot.
Now this, some miscreant, criminal ne'er-do-well, back in the 1990s, ended up on the set of Twister when part of it was being filmed in Iowa. And I don't know what kind of, juvenile delinquent rat bastard would see an ILM hat and decide, hey, that belongs to me. But boy, if I ever meet the guy that would steal this hat, I don't know what I'd do.
Hey, 25-year-old, it's past that person. There's nothing they can do.
The statute of limitations is long gone.
Yeah,
You're good.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite thing I've ever stolen.
Yeah, yes, and I dig your orange parka vest or jacket
Well, yeah,
there.
it's the flight vest.
Yeah, that's so
So
great.
Yeah, I need me one of those.
I was gonna say need
Yeah,
to
you
get
do.
that so Nathan can do Trapper Wolf some more.
I will say they did not think that somebody that was 2XL had long arms. They think
Oh,
we're just chunky.
good to know.
So yeah. So I'm kind of doing that 90s
So
roll up the sleeve thing. Yeah. All right.
It's a spring jacket.
Yeah. They're capri jackets. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. All right, Nathan, what you got for a Star Wars shirt?
Well, at first I wasn't sure that Liz's character was a good guy. I didn't know if I could trust her, but you know who is a good judge of character? Grogu.
That's right.
And as soon as Grogu decided, now this is somebody I'm going to jump to, I knew that she had to be just a stellar person. So I'm wearing my Grogu shirt in honor of Grogu being an excellent judge of character, or at least an excellent person at telling when someone's willing to give him food.
Yes. I love that she enticed him with like a little fish thing. That was great.
Should have been a
All right.
chicken nugget though.
Yeah, should have been.
It was
chicken
close
nugget.
enough.
All right, Derek, what do you got for Star Wars shirt?
So, like I mentioned, when I went to the Lexington Comic and Toy Con, I picked up some new shirts. We've seen last episode, well, no, 2 episodes ago. I'm sorry, I revealed the Roxy's Pit based off the Hellfire Club. So I got another one here.
Oh, it's Ahsoka with a cool Ahsoka symbol, if you will.
Yes. So, So just pick that up at one of the local vendors there that made some shirts. I could try bringing my wife's down. She ended up picking up a Starbucks look-alike, but it says Star Wars coffee and it's got Princess Leia on it as the thing instead of the Starbucks logo. But looks just like it. So it's pretty clever. I'll bring it down.
I would have gone with Shock T because the head tails have the stripes on
them.
Yeah. By the way, can you stand up again? Doesn't that look like she's got one of those weird hologram dress trails like Lizzo did?
It does kind of, or the convention mechanical bat wings on her back.
Yes,
beefy arms though. That's for sure.
She does have beefy arms. Yeah.
How long until we get that holographic backpack thingy in real life?
Oh, not long at all. Like maybe 2 years max. Or you know what? If they're smart, somebody's selling it at Celebration this weekend in London.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't take them long. Well, it took them a little bit to get the Canto.
Cantono.
So, yeah, our Cantono. Sorry, yeah, that. But you never know. So at least by maybe fall or by next Celebration.
Yeah. All right. I've got the shirt to end all shirts here, guys, especially for me. It's a Hawaiian shirt, Star Wars. It's even better than surfing Grogu. It's more surfing, but wait till you see this. So first we've got Slave 1. Boba Fett has jumped out of the ship to go surfing, but his surfboard is frozen Han Solo. What? Come on. This is amazing. So yes,
wow.
He is surfing on Han in carbonite as his surfboard.
You know what he's saying when he does that? Han 10.
Oh my God! Yes, that's what he's saying. That's what I'm gonna call it. My Han 10 shirt from now on. Good time. So yeah. So the best surfing is, of course, when you jump out of a helicopter. So this is what we have in the Star Wars.
He's doing his best Keanu Reeves then.
Yes, he's doing Point Break. Yeah, totally. And surfing on your enemy who is frozen in carbonite. I mean, what bigger own is there?
Bodhi Fett.
Bodhi Fett. Wow. It's all coming together, man.
I've got the dad jokes today.
Well, I was going to say Boba. So
Boba. Oh,
see, that's not a dad joke. That's a stepdad joke. You know why? Because you're not my real dad.
I'll come up with a joke in like a week or so.
Yes. You can just message us, Nathan, at 3 a.m. Hey, I got my joke.
I got it. I figured it out.
Good job, buddy. I'm going to put that on the fridge.
Okay.
Dad joke.
Yes. Oh, wow. All right. Well, if you guys want cool Star Wars merchandise, at least when it comes to what a piece of junk, please check out our store on tpublic.com. Just search up Fandom Podcast Network in the search box, and you can get a cool coffee mug like Derek has there, or a mouse pad, or iPad case, or phone case, or a pillow, or
an actual T-shirt.
Or an actual T-shirt. I think we do still sell those. Yeah. So yeah, please check it out. And Derek, let folks know where they can find the show out there on the interwebs.
So obviously, if you just go out and search anywhere on any type of streaming platform podcast, you can find us at What a Piece of Junk, a Star Wars podcast, but specifically calling out the FPNet on Podbean for the master feed. You could do Apple Podcasts, you could do Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Google Play. And then the big things of getting a hold of us, because again, we like doing this. If you even want a guest, come on, just message us. We're more than happy to have some of our Space Junkie listeners out there joining us. So would be great if you want to get a hold of us. So you can do that through the Facebook group, which is What a Piece of Junk, a Star Wars podcast, as I mentioned. You can then do the email at whatapieceofjunkpod@gmail.com, Twitter, which is at What Wars, and then the Instagram, which is Fandom Podcast Network. And again, as we talk about podcast reviews, specifically Apple, Nathan, tell the listeners why they should leave us a review.
Well, podcast reviews are basically the only direct democracy that we have left on the Outer Rim. You get to vote for what podcasts you feel are the best, and we would love to be the best podcast for you. So giving us reviews helps us know what we can do better, helps us know what we're doing well, and helps other people find our podcast. So remember, vote for us, vote for direct democracy. Don't give in to the Empire. Don't give in to the Republic. Stand up for Count Dooku. For What a Piece of Junk.
Absolutely.
I think Dooku uses Stitcher, doesn't he?
Decentralized finance. Oh, wait, sorry, wrong podcast.
Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. Here are the other great
Okay.
So thank you for listening. I hope you're enjoying the podcast.
Kevin just had to get in.
Yeah, he was all like, that's enough of this political philosophy. I got to come on here and promote the show. All right. I'm not even going to edit that out because it was really well timed. Anyway. Cool. Good times. Okay. Yes. Well, thank you very much for joining us, everybody. Lee, let folks know where else they can find you here on the FPN and in general. They all know where we all hang out all the time, but as our special guest, you get to promo.
They can find me with Cosca Reeves in a hot tub drinking a bottle of Spotchka. Otherwise, you can find me on Instagram at The Way of the Way. You can find me under my name, Lee Fillingsness, on Facebook. Sorry for the politics. I'm sure Kevin will interrupt me on there. You can also find The Way of the Way, my documentary project, Madman Road, my production company, Double Action Martial Arts, my martial arts and fight choreography company, all on Facebook. And I'm everywhere. I'm standing right behind you. I'm just sneaking up on you in my Imperial ship while you run away with your Quarren lover.
Yes, totally. And we're all going to assume that you're with the Empire, but you're not.
Yeah, they're with me.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for.
Lee can be bought with the right price.
Hell yeah, I can.
Standing army is a mercenary army. Well, anyway, thanks for joining us, everybody. Please hit us up between shows with your thoughts and feedback. And please always remember to respect each other and always respect each other's fandom. All right, Nathan, punch it.